Okay, this is going to be a closed VFR pattern in a Piper Malibu Mirage, in this case with the G1000, and we're starting from the before takeoff checklist, and I'm going to walk you guys all the way through the traffic pattern. So, before takeoff checklist, parking brake, I'm just going to hold the brakes, flight controls, check.
Stationer 0, Hotel Papa, frequency change approved, advise when inbound.
And free. Controls are free and correct. Trims set for takeoff. I like to have my rudder trim under the E for a little bit of help with the left turning tendencies of the airplane, and elevator trim's neutral, so trims are set. Speed brakes test and retract. Came up and they retracted, so speed brakes test and retracted. Fuel selector is on the desired tank. Right tank's the fullest, and that's selected. And flight instruments checked and set, that's 0. Future altimeter is 29901. And that's set, and set. Got pattern altitude bugged. Matches the compass. I'm going to bug runway heading as well, which is going to be 359. Heading's bugged, so flight instruments are checked and set. A prop is full forward, and throttle's coming up to 2,000. There's 2,000 magnetos, left mag off. 50 drop, back to both. And recovered, right mag off. 70, 80 drop, 20 drop, good, back to both. And a good recovery. Top exercise. Oil on the windscreen there. Up in RPM and rise in manifold pressure, and then I also want to make sure I see the oil pressure moving here. Good. Props full forward, and we have a good recovery. Gyro section is good. Volts and amps. Volts look good. Amps are drawing a good even load. Engine instruments, we're all good. Car's coming back. Right cast panel is clear except pitot heat. We're not going to worry about that in the closed pattern. GPS nav set, we already got that set up. Radios and transponder. We're squawking altitude. Radios will switch over to tower when we're ready. Autopilot set as desired. I'm not going to set it up for the closed pattern. Departure briefing, we're just going to make left closed traffic. I'm assuming he's going to give us left hand traffic. And emergency briefing, I want to make sure I have 42, so I go by the 50-70 rule. We want to make sure we have 70% of our rotation speed by the time we're 50% down the run, 50% of the way down the runway. So in this case, I'm going to use the intersection at taxiway delta, picking a point down the runway to call out that I have 56 knots. I want to have 56 by delta, otherwise we're going to abort the takeoff. If there's an engine failure on the ground, I'm just going to go power to idle and get on the brakes. If it's in the air below 600 feet, I go anywhere outside of the windscreen. Any point outside of the windscreen, like a field, I'm going to pitch the nose down and go for. Between 600 and 1,200 feet, I'll now extend that to anything in front of the wings. If it's in front of my wings, I can go for it. Above 1,200 feet is the minimum altitude that I would consider making a turn back to the airport. So the emergency briefing, tables and armrests are stowed. Air conditioner is off. A mixture will go rich, exterior lights will come on, fuel pump on, pitot heat, we're not worried about it. For this one, takeoff time, I'll note when we're cleared, parking brake is released. So those are the runway items I'll do when we're clear for takeoff. Other than that, before takeoff checklist is complete. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to switch over to COM 1 where we have tower queued up. In tower, Malibu 872 Alpha Foxtrot is holding short, runway 36, ready for departure with a left closed pattern.
Malibu 872 Alpha Foxtrot, Builder Tower, runway 36, wind variable at 6, clear for takeoff, left closed traffic approved.
Left closed traffic approved, runway 36, clear for takeoff, 872 Alpha Foxtrot. Alright, and it's going to be 12. So transponder's altitude, we're squawking VFR, props forward, mixture rich, flaps are set, fuel selector's on the fullest. Trims are set, lights on, pump on, heat's not required. Finals clear, runway's good and clear, and we are clear for takeoff. Alright, so I'm going to line up on centerline here, using pretty much much every bit of runway that I can. Nothing more useless than the runway behind you. All right, lined up. I see a 3.6, I'm off the brakes. Here comes full power. Get myself some friction too. There go the turbochargers. Enhancing all the way to full power. We're making full power. Fuel flow's up, engine screen. We're 356, airspeed's a lie, there's 60. There's 70 knots, 75, there's 80. And rotate. Tap the brakes. And I see a positive rate, gear up, landing light off. All right, through 100 knots. Flaps coming up. And we're pitching for 110, which is VY. And we have a good altitude here now. I'm going to pull the power back to cruise climb, which is going to be 35 inches. And watching our fuel flow, emergency fuel pump is coming off. And the mixture is coming back to 33 for cruise climb settings. All right, mixture set, power set. There's 500 feet, clear left. And I want to make sure I give myself plenty of lead on my level off. 200 go. Coming up on pattern altitude here, so I'm going to start reducing power because I got to come all the way back to 22 inches from 35 inches. Below 165, we're going to introduce the flaps back down to 10 degrees. Power is continuing to come back to 22 inches, and we're turning downwind. .22 inches is set with 10 degrees of flaps selected and indicating. So this is kind of our setup now.
For your downwind?
Yeah, this is the setup now kind of for our downwind. 22 inches, 10 degrees of flaps, which is giving us 120 knots. And I'm about 50 feet low right now, so I'm correcting for that.
Malibu 2 Alpha Foxtrot, runway 36, wind 360 F5, clear to land.
Runway 36, clear to land, 872 Alpha Foxtrot. All right, so we're looking good. Now, when I'm abeam my touchdown point, I'm going to go gear down, pump on, power back to 18 inches, and then I'm going to trim to pitch for 110. So we're abeam now, below 165, gear down, pump on, power back to 18 inches. And he said we're clear to land, so landing light's coming on, and I'm going to trim it now for 110. Gas, lights are on, undercarriage is down, 3 green, mixture, prop, power, 18 inches. Trim for 110, straps were both strapped in and secured, and flaps are at 10 degrees. I'm looking for a 45-degree angle to the runway now, and there it is, turning base. And as I'm turning base, I'm going to reach over and grab full flaps, and that nose is going to try to drop on me, but I'm not going to let it, and I'm going to help assist that using the trim, constantly using the electric trim here.
Just correction, you didn't grab full flaps, you went to 20.
20.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did I say full flaps?
Fine.
20 degrees of flaps. And now trimming for 100 knots here on base.
100 knots on base, okay.
Runway looks good and clear, final is clear, and again, we are clear to land. My landing light is on, gear is down, 3 green. 100 knots looks good, and that also is my key point now, so now it's power as needed to stay on my glide path.
500.
There's 500 above. Turning final, and as I turn final, I'm going to do the same thing, except this time grabbing full flaps, not letting that nose drop, and helping the trim to assist me in that. And I'm going to roll out right at about 90. Now on final, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lift my feet off the pedals for a second and center the rudder trim. I feel the loose spot in there, and then I'm also going to hit the red button, my autopilot disconnect, to make sure the yaw damper is off, and it is. On final, I like 90, 85 to 90. I like 90, slowing to 85 on short final.
If we had been flying pressurized, we'd check our brakes right now. Okay.
Absolutely.
And they're solid.
Yep. All right, gears down, 3 green. We are cleared to land runway 36.
I confirm 3 green.
Yep. And in the flare, I'm also going to use my electric trim to help take some of that pressure off because it is a heavy nose airplane. All right, so power is going all the way to idle now. And we go into the round out, and now I'm on that trim to the round out, and then it'll settle down into the flare. There we are, and my feet are centered before that nose wheel touches as well. It's very important. Use some aerodynamic braking as well as some light brake pressure.